Hey, this is Mr. Jarvis, and welcome to 2024 First Math Homework, January 8th, 2024. And we're looking at computer information here. You've probably heard these terms, gigabytes. Now we're getting into terabytes and whatnot. But start out with bytes. I remember, talking about computer memory and kilobytes and bytes. Now we're up to megabyte. Megabyte was a big deal. But anyway, 1 kilobyte is 1,000 bytes. So 43 kilobytes is 43,000 bytes. Basically, what you have to do is just multiply 1,000 bytes 43 times. And we kind of did the old trick. All you have to do is count the number of zeros. There's 3, 1, 2, 3. Or you can really think about it as moving the decimal place to the right. There's really a decimal place here 3 times because there's 3 zeros. That's just another way of thinking about it. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm putting a comma there. All right, let's go on to the next one here. So number 1, 43,000 bytes. So now we're into the gigabytes. I skipped down to I, and we're looking at 2.4 gigabytes. And here's where that thinking about this is moving the decimal place to the right helps us. So because you have 2.4 gigabytes, so 1 gigabyte is 1,000 megabytes. So if I didn't have this decimal, if it was 24 gigabytes, I just simply add 3 zeros, 1, 2, 3. But it's not. It's 2.4. So the way I have to think of this is really moving the decimal point. So I have 2.4, 3 places to right. 1, add a 0. 2, add a 0. 3, add a don't need to add 0. So it's 2,400 gigabytes. Okay. That is correct. So you could just write it 2,400 gigabytes. And notice I almost put the 0 here. If I did, it wouldn't matter. 0.0, it doesn't matter. I could have done that if I wanted to. Had a little brain freeze here. It's been a nice long break. So 2,400 megabytes. Whoops. And you need to put the little MB here for megabytes. All right, let's go ahead. So all of these have to do with multiplying, and you're just simply moving that decimal place to the right. There's a tricky one where they jump too. They go, I think, from kilobytes to gigabytes, in which case you have to move the decimal place over, from converting from a kilobyte to a megabyte, 3, and then another 3. So we'll talk about that more tomorrow. But most of them are just one step. Okay. So in B, they're asking you, round it to the nearest whole number. This is 2B. And the whole number is 6 here. So this, we don't consider the 8 as the whole number. So 16.8. And I remember 5 or more increase the score. 4 or less, no change is best. This is more than 5. So I'm going to, this is my rounding spot, the ones. I'm going to increase it by 1 and make this a 0. Or just leave it alone. It could be a whole number 17. Okay, let's move on. Round each to the nearest hundredth. Before they are asking you to, the question 3 was asking you to round them all to the nearest tenth. The hundredth place is here. So the rule is, in rounding to the nearest hundredth, we have 24 and 275 thousandths. This is the hundredths place. It's fine. This is the rounding place. Look 1 to the right and ask yourself, 5 or more, increase the score. 4 or less, no change is best. We're increasing the score here. So it's 24 and 28 hundredths. Okay, so that rounds. And now here, find the rounding place. I have 36 and 308 thousandths. So the rounding place is here. So I look 1 to the right, and once again, it's greater than 4, so I increase the score by 1. So I increase the 0 to 1, and it's 36 and 31 hundredths. So then I just erase this off. You basically just increase that by 1. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. That should be review. We'll bring your questions to class tomorrow if you have them. Let's see here. Okay, so here's our kind of question. We have 78. Isabella's building a tree fort. The base is 78 inches by 92 inches long. What's the area of the base in square inches? So these are all inches. One of the strategies I use, I could think of it as easier math. I could think of this as 80 inches, 92 80 times, and take off 2 92s if I wanted to. So I could simply think of this as 92 times, or, I could think of it as 8, but it's really 80, and make it a multiple of, and make it, increase it, just move that decimal place over. So, but this is easier math for me. Just multiply by 8 is 8 times 2 is 16, 8 times 9, 72, 73. Whoops. Let me write this a little better. 73. But I really multiplied it by 80. So to do that, I just add a 0 to the end. And now I need to think, so I multiplied it by 8. I just have to subtract. It's going to get a little messy. 2 times 92 from 7,360. So I'm going to subtract 184. And it's going to get a little messy here. It's because I have to borrow across this a lot. So I got to borrow a 0 from 4. I'm going to borrow here. Make this a 5. This a 10, and I get 6. This was a 5. 8 minus 5 minus 8. Can't do it. Borrow here. Make that a 2. 15. It's going to give me 7. 2 minus 1 is 1. And just bring down the 7. So I got 7,176 square inches. Okay. That got kind of messy. In my opinion, an easier way would just be to do the long multiplication, which the old standard way, 92 times 78. But I think there's less room for error there. So now, what's the base in square feet? Well, 1 square foot is 144 inches. So, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm not opposed to using a calculator with this. So I'm just going to type in on my little phone 7,176 divided by 1 square foot is 144 inches. 144. And I get kind of a crazy number, but I have to round. I get this 4. I wish I could have. So it's really 7,000. To convert square inches to square, like if it was just straight inches, I divide by 12. But a square foot is 144 inches. Okay, so I divided this 7,176 divided by 144, and I have 49.8333333, and it just keeps going. So what do? I round to the nearest hundredth, look 1 to the right. No change is best. 49.83. However, if I was a builder, I'd need to have a little bit more than that because it's a little less. So I'm kind of a little challenge there. So good luck with the homework. We'll review anything you didn't quite get tomorrow. And Happy New Year, everyone.